Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Blue Sunday, proudly brought to you on the Jump. I was going to say the Bumper Jump channel, the Jumper Pump channel. I'm hosting the show. My name is Bangkok Joe, and joining me, as usual, in our luxurious Melbourne penthouse studios, Big Vincenz or Vince Loccisano, former president of the Carltonians, life member of the Carlton Football Club. They can't take those titles away from you. How are you today, Vince?
Yes, I'm good, Joe. Not bad for Carlton support. I got the hoodie on because I'm a bit fresh. It's all turned a bit cold here in Melbourne in the last day or so. But yes.
So what happens? Daylight savings. Well,
I was just going to say, in time for daylight savings to finish.
Yeah, it's a balmy 35 degrees here, and I've spent all afternoon working out on the Chao Phraya River. Let me tell you, it was one hot day out there. I think I've drunk about 3 gallons of water, and I'm still dehydrated. Anyway.
Yes, well, winter is setting in here, and winter's come early for the Carlton Football Club, that's for sure.
Oh, has it what? Jeez, I tell you what, it's snowing. Hey, Vince, I know we've got a lot of viewers out there that want to talk about the show, so let's quickly get some admin out the way, and then we'll get to it, and we'll bring our special guest in as usual. So as you all know, we are a social media program, and we rely on the likes of you, the public. So please, I better do this. Push the like, share, and subscribe button. You'll find us on Facebook at Blue Sunday and on YouTube at The Jumper Punch. As you all know, the Jumper Punch channel is proudly sponsored by the Sporting Globe, which, Vince, I know you're keen to tell me. Hey, what does that mean? Well, next weekend, gather round. Make sure the Jumper Punch and the Sporting Globe have got together, and they're going to have a gather round to watch the football at the Sporting Globe at Northland. So please get on and book your free tickets and join Rocco, Mars, Paolo. Are you going, Vince?
I would like to go, although my daughter's playing football at that time, so she normally comes first, as does family for most people. So
sure does.
I'm not sure what time it is, but if I can certainly get down there, even if it's for the second half or whatever, I'll certainly do my best to get down there.
Have a look in the comments. There's a lot more information there about time and booking tickets. The guys would like you to book tickets. Not that they wouldn't like you to turn up on the day, but at least it gives them a little bit of an idea for catering purposes. And there's going to be free nibbles. You'll be surrounded by Carlton supporters, so you can all wallow in your own misery and just bitch and moan and throw beers at the screen and stuff like that. Also, Blue Sunday is proudly brought to you by my channel, Retired Working For You Tours. We do tours of Thailand. I've had a few comments during the week about how did the earthquake affect me and that. 2 things. First, I was in Melbourne when it happened, and my girlfriend rang up and said, "Oh, the building's swaying." I'm going, "Don't be stupid." And then she rings back. She said, "There's been an earthquake." I go, "What?" So we're all safe and sound, me and all my friends. I've got no damage to my house or apartment. A couple of my friends weren't so lucky. They've got a lot of damage. So everyone here is safe and sound, but I feel sorry for the people in Myanmar. So, Vince, the Blues. I've just got to quickly put up a quick meme. Things adults should stop believing in. Santa Claus, the Tooth Fairy, the Easter Bunny, and the Carlton Football Club. I suppose I couldn't agree more.
We should also mention, we'd love to hear from you during the program. If you've got any comments or questions or opinions, by all means, post them on our pages. But also great to see some of our regulars joining us as usual.
Exactly. Lana. Rocco, hey Rock, he can give you a bit more information. Petra,
I love seeing Seba come on when he comes on.
He's he's there. He's in the house. Rob Galichio's there. G'day, Rob. Saw another one. Peter Macca.
Alessandro, ALR.
Yeah, he's there. Seba's definitely there. Lana's definitely there. Lone Wolf. I want to know who Zap PMKD is. So please feel free. I'll try to put as many comments as I can up. If you do ask questions, I'll try and put them up. Just be wary. A lot of people try and get questions, and Lou's also in the house. G'day, Lou. Yeah, we try to get as many questions as we can up, but sometimes we just can't.
Yeah.
Hey, Vin.
Yes, Joe. Well, look, do you want to go over the scores and all of that sort of stuff first, or do you want to discuss it quickly?
I was going to say we will go over the scores and that, but we have someone special sitting out the back, and we'll bring him in now because it's always good to get his point of view. So, ladies and gentlemen, without further ado, Mr. David Rhys-Jones. G'day, David. How are you this evening?
Yeah, good. No, very good. It's good playing these games on Thursday nights. It gives you a few days to recover before we have to worry about it on a Sunday night. We can chill out a bit and relax and forget all about it.
We've already been through the 3 or 4 stages of grieving by the time Sunday night comes around after a Thursday night.
Put a smile on our face again and, think of happier things.
Anyway,
indeed.
Hey, Vince, let's get to the scores. So I'll let you go through them.
Yes, as you can see there, the final scores, Collingwood 8-15-63, defeated Carlton 6-10-46, and I couldn't help but agree with Jason Dunstall on the coverage that night that it was the most flattering scoreboard he's ever seen for a 17-point loss. He said it all felt like a 40-point loss all night. Certainly not at half time, but geez, that second half, we just did not turn up to give a yelp, really. And the last couple of goals of the game we scored were during junk time, and Collingwood had very much already put the cue in the rack by that stage. So the scoreboard really did flatter us. We did get off to the usual good start, 3-5 to 3-2 in the first quarter. Then Collingwood really dominated from then on in. Even the second quarter, even though we scored 1 goal to their 5 points, they just dominated that quarter and they just couldn't get it on the scoreboard. And eventually we scored the last score of that quarter, which was that elusive goal, to go in at halftime 4 points up. But then they showed what they were made of, and we showed what we were made of in the third quarter. 4 goals, 6 to 1 point in a very lopsided third quarter, and that basically killed the game off. They also got the first goal of the last quarter to at one stage be up by about 30, I think it was 32 points or 33 points at one stage. I think it was 63 to 30 before we actually, so they basically scored their last score before the halfway mark of that quarter. I think it was 63 to 30 at one stage, and we scored the last 2 goals, 4 of the game. So brought it back to a respectable margin. But, anyway, 17-point loss. Yes, Joe?
I was just going to say, I would just like to thank Lone Wolf Ant for his $10 contribution. Thanks, Lone Wolf.
Absolutely. Yes, thanks for that. Goals were also very few and far between, and we only had the 4 goal scorers for the night. George Hewitt got 2, Ollie Hollands got 2, Curnow and Cripps got 1 each. That's it. They were our 6 goals accounted for. And I just wanted to quickly go through some individual disposal counts and also some of the disposal efficiency ratings here. On the positive side of the ledger, you had Walsh with 31 possessions, Akers with 30, Hewitt with 29, Doherty 27, Sard 24, and Chera 23. But some of those were dampened a bit by their disposal efficiency. Akers went at 56%, Doherty at 63%. Zach Williams only had 21 possessions, but at 52% efficiency. Patrick Cripps, don't know what's happened to him in the last couple of weeks. He only had 16 possessions and went at 56% efficiency. Jack Silvani only had 13 and went at 46%. Fogarty, 11 possessions at 54%. Motlop, 11 possessions for 45% efficiency. Will White, well, you'd probably give him a bit of a mulligan because it's his first game, but he had 10 possessions, but only went at 40%. And three others I'd like to mention. Brodie Kemp had only 7 possessions and went at 57%. Ashton Moyer basically played 3 quarters once Lockie Cowan went off. He only got the 1 kick and the 1 hand pass for the game and went at 50%. And Charlie Curnow, 8 possessions at 37% efficiency. That's killing us. That is the one stat that must be absolutely standing out more than any other when it comes to the way we're performing on the field. And I don't know what Michael Boss is doing about it, but the rest of the figures probably don't stack up too badly. I mean, we had more of the ball. If you look at the statistics there up on screen, 374 possessions to 360. Uncontested possessions we had more of. Contested possessions we had more of. We had more marks. They had marginally more hitouts. They had a lot more tackles. And scoring shots as well, 23 to 16. So, and 1%ers, they absolutely dominated us in that area. But I'll be interested to see what David makes of those figures, and especially some of the players that I just mentioned earlier, and not only how many possessions they're getting, but how they are using the ball.
Yeah. Before we get to David, I just want to point out, as Lone Wolf rightly points out, I mean, all day Collingwood were pointing out how they love beating Carlton and, the rivalry. And what do we post? Oh, Ampol. More concerned about the sponsors than, we're just about business. They don't want to win games. They just, as long as they keep the sponsors happy, they're okay. Anyway, David, you're the expert. Tell us.
I don't think posts on social media really have anything to do with might be for the fans and
that's what I mean.
think they should do more for the fans and do more for the rather than posting stuff about our sponsors and so forth. You can throw a bit of fan stuff in there as well and keep them enthused. But it was funny there because you were talking about the disposals, and it looked like Collingwood's disposal rate was worse than ours. It was 72 to 65, wasn't it? Did I read that right? Yeah. So we went at 72%, which
shocked me.
Isn't too bad. I mean, you look at the individuals. Well, obviously there must have been a lot of individuals who had very high disposal rates. So we can thank that. But look, I mean, it was a typical Carlton game. I mean, we come out, we can play half a game of footy and keep with an opposition, but when the heat comes on in the third quarter, and we used to call it the premiership quarter back in the day, the third quarter, and that's when the good teams turn it on, and you that's normally the quarter you win to win the match, and it's happened against us 4 times this year. So we haven't been able to handle the heat that the opposition have been able to come out after half time and provide. So it's disappointing, but it's a reality, and I think some of the players you mentioned before, especially those small forwards, and just not doing enough. We've got too many players who are just not doing enough, and I suppose in the reserves game on the weekend, it was good to see Harry Mackay having a game. I mean, if he's good enough to play seconds footy, I can't understand why he couldn't have played on Thursday night, or why he couldn't play on Thursday night. There was a bit on Channel 9 tonight about record numbers of past players and so forth, visiting psychiatrists and asking for help through the Players Association for mental health help and so forth. And it's funny because my wife asked me, she said, "Why is all this happening?" And I said, "You know why it's all happening? Because everyone gets a bloody medal when you're a kid. Everyone wins. Everyone wins the prize, I mean, and when you don't win a prize and when things get tough, then, and I think it's a society we have at the moment. I also heard during the week on a radio show that there is a lot of requests now for from sports people and football clubs for psychiatric help to help them with the fear of failure. Now, I nearly run off the road when I heard that, because dead set, if you don't fail, you don't learn anything. I mean,
100%.
It is just crazy. It's crazy that we've got such a weak mentality mob of people that we're trying to. I mean, I'm not saying this refers to Carlton, but Jesus Christ, doesn't it? It's set a bad example to. I mean, these are the guys that should be going out, and I know it's their job now, it's their full-time job, but geez, fear of failure. That's that should not.
Hey, David, does it really surprise you? Does it surprise you when even at the earliest levels of football, like under 8s and that sort of stuff, they don't even have scoreboards. They don't even keep scores. There's no winner.
The kids do. The kids. The silly thing about it, every kid on the ground knows exactly what the score is. I mean, they don't score that much.
Yeah, I know. Stupid, isn't it?
They don't need a scoreboard.
And at the end of the day, everyone gets a participation certificate. Well done.
Exactly. And it's crazy. I mean, even at school, I mean, geez, if you had read a few of my reports at school, they weren't too good, but they're not allowed to write anything bad about them. I mean, what type of people are we bringing into this world? I mean, it's everyone.
Hey guys,
expecting everything, and we're getting away from footy, aren't we?
No, that's right. I've just got some breaking news. Our cameras, at great expense, are out the front of Marvel Stadium, and we've just got this picture.
We'll do anything for 4 points.
We'll do anything for 4 points.
Yeah, well,
I've got a couple I was sent, Joe, that you can have. I've got a heap of them that were sent through on.
I know.
Different things. So,
do you know what shits me is that I hate that fucking Dacos family. Was it Josh or one of them said, "Oh, we knew that after halftime they'd weaken, and we'd get them. We weren't worried about the first half." I can't stand any of that family.
But Joe, put aside your prejudices against Collingwood and against the Dacos family. What he said is compelling.
It's true,
and it's actually true. And most opposition sides that come up against us now think exactly like that. It doesn't matter what they throw at us. We know that they're going to capitulate. We know that we're never too far behind to come back. If Richmond can come back from 41 points down and beat them, anyone can. So, we've made our own bed now. Now we've got to lie in it.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how the opposition thinks.
So, David, is it mental? Is it what? I mean, I don't know if you know more than the average Joe, with your mates up there, but.
Well, it's hard to tell because fitness. I mean, you could look at the fitness side of things and say, well, we're unable to run our games, but we're getting run over by everyone at the moment. So you really got to look at that, but it's got to be a mental thing as well, and also there's obviously some problems down there. I mean, with Harry, with Elijah Hollins, these sort of things are not conducive to a happy football club. And you need things. You have a look at Melbourne. Melbourne won a premiership not that long ago. And,
4 years ago.
And then they come out the next year, they won 11 or 12 games straight. They were sitting on top of the ladder.
Yeah.
Next minute, there's a blue between Melksham and
May
at a French restaurant in Melbourne. Obviously, some, people take sides in who they support or whatever, and then there was some other information, about Goodwin and betting and drinking and so forth, and all this stuff started to fester, and all of a sudden Melbourne weren't the team they were. They just weren't the team they were, and you need everything ticking along perfectly within that group, the harmony within the group. And obviously, we've got some problems there as well. So, from the the previous president's pre-season bungles sort of thing, and the dick pic and whatever. Just crap things that we just don't need, and the players don't need. No one needs, and that can upset things as well. But we're just not playing the sort of footy that we need to be playing, and I think you got to take your hat off to the Collingwood team. They took away. I thought Darcy Cameron was best on ground by a mile. He had the better of Tom De Koning, and first time Tom's been beaten this year, but he's very important to us. They also, put Pendlebury did most of the work on Paddy Cripps, and he's done it before too. And Cripper, probably had one of his worst games I've seen him play for a long, long time. So, and when we needed him in that second half, he just couldn't come out and do it. So.
But it shouldn't just be up to him. That's the problem with these clubs. Too few.
Well, yeah, it is. It's your stars you do who you do. They're going to come out and lift you. You look at any team and you look at Patrick Dangerfield on the weekend. You look at Josh Stakos in the third quarter, and they step them up. They step it up, and you rely on your better players to inspire and get the rest of the troops behind, because obviously, but they just bring the rest along with them. But we need to get more out of our good players, and we just couldn't do it. And we just got totally dominated out of the middle clearances and so forth in that third quarter, and that's just what killed us.
David, DC asks, do you think we have I'm going to guess when he says management, he's talking about coaches and board members and that. Do you think we have the right people down there to get us around, to get us out of this, to turn it around?
So. Yeah, I hope so. And I hope the one thing I did like after the game, when I heard Jacob Wiedering talking about, you could tell that he knew we weren't tough enough and we weren't, I wouldn't say we're not good enough. I just really felt that he said some really positive things, that they were going to, look at what was happening and have a real good look at it and go back and start working on those things, because Vossi, I don't know how coaches, do they yell at players? I mean, do they give them a spray or whatever anymore? I mean, I don't know whether it does or doesn't happen behind closed doors. There's too much, but Vossi's career is in the hands of these players, and that's what happens to all coaches. Your hands are in your job is in the hands of the players you're sending out there and trusting to do, and when they're not producing and they're not doing it, that's your job. Your job's on the line, and we've seen over the last few weeks, people coming out and calling for Vossi's head and asking whether he's good enough, whether he's up to the job. Or, gee, I'd love to see a bit of Michael Voss come into our players this week, because the way he played and the way I'd say his philosophy on football is, he needs to instill that into our players, and he needs to do that quickly, because the season's just going to be a basket case otherwise. And look, we could get some players back this week, which is going to be good, and we need to sort of get some players back, and we need to get some players out.
Can I just want to say something? There's a few people in the chat asking about, have we heard rumours about Harry and Elijah and board members? We're not going to speculate on any rumours, because they are just that, rumours, right? Unless we have cold, hard facts, we're not going to answer any questions. We're not going to talk about anything. That's not our role. We're here to talk about the club and what's the problem. If they've got rumours, like I said, they're just rumours. We'll only deal in facts. So rat poison especially, we're not going to end. You want me to ask Vince? I'm not going to ask Vince that question. I don't think Vince will answer it anyway. No, they're saying Harry's missus or something with having sex with board members or whatever. We're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about the football. All right. Just on a couple of players, David, what do you think of Sam Doherty this year, and especially his game on Thursday night?
He got a bit of the ball. He's not as effective, I think, as what he has been in the past, and I think that's been disappointing. I'd like to see him in the back line. I'd like to see him put him back in the back line. I think that's more of his go, and especially, with all the injuries and things he's had, his health problems a whole lot throughout his career, coming towards the end of it, being in a these are elite fitness levels you've got to be at these days as an athlete, when you're working that midfield type role, and even on a wing, you've got to be up one end and then down the other end, 15 seconds later, sort of thing. So, I don't think his body's ready for that. And I think if they are going to play him, I think the back line's going to be the best spot for him, and where he can, work on a player and get back to where he is an All-Australian defender, 6, 7, 8 years, whatever it was. So, put him back there. It'll be a lot easier for him. And if they want to keep him in the team, that's where he probably should be playing. So, he's along with quite a few others, have been a little bit disappointing so far. Not
he pulled out of one. It's easy for me to say he pulled out of one contest, and Ollie Hollands had a go at him, and he just sort of ignored him. And David, in your day, when Fogarty got hit by Houston, which was a clear elbow, someone would have remonstrated. No one went up and flew the flag. They just went about their own business. What do you think of that?
Oh, look, I think I said last week I'd love to see one of our players get reported. Just show a bit of bloody go, show a bit of toughness about, we accept everything at the moment, and you got to fly the flag for your mates, and I love doing that, actually, flying the flag.
You were good at that. You flew the flag for yourself too.
Oh well, I had to, because no one flew it for me. They got sick of helping me out, so I had to fight my own battles. But no. Look, I as I said before, with Michael Voss's coach and the way he played, I put a highlight tape of Michael Voss on and show it to the players and say, this is what you expected. This is what this bloke did. This is what he expects out of you. And I don't know. It's we're just in a real spiral of demise at the moment. It's easy to point the fingers and pick out players one by one. We could go through the whole lot of them, and I don't think there's been, well, maybe one. I think George Hewitt's probably one who could hold his head up high after 4 rounds so far. But other than him, I really, there were players who improved on the weekend. I thought Sard, his first half in particular, he's trying to get things happening. He's trying to generate some run. Some of our handball and quick handball and that, which was able to release us early in the game. But the problem is we're going into a forward line which, is just too Charlie Curnow-centric, which it had to be because he's the only one really down there capable of taking a mark. And we just make life very easy for the opposition, very, very easy for the opposition. So, and we keep doing the same thing. Week in, week out, we just keep playing the same way. So that's one thing that just staggers me. We don't flip the board around and try something completely different. We just continually do the same things over and over, and the same blokes get changed positions. Lewis Young will go to the back line and Silvani will come down in the last quarter to play a little bit in the forward line. We don't have any flair about it, whether we haven't got the players to be able to do it, that might be the case as well. But we someone mentioned, the management, I suppose, the coaches are dumb. Or I I don't think that. I wouldn't say they're dumb. I just think they're not. They're not willing to take risks, and if they're not willing to take risks, how are the players going to take risks? You know what I mean? It's it's one of those things. I think we need to change some players out this week. It was good to see Harry played, Elijah played. You know, they should come back in. Ben Camprioli, he's had a couple of games now, I think, or half a game and a full game on the weekend. So throw a young kid in there. Throw a kid in there. Harry Lemmy kicked a couple of goals, you know, on the weekend. Put him in there. For God's sake, put him in there. You know, I mean, if Harry Mackay's not going to play him. You know, why have him there otherwise? You know, you see all these other teams with young players, you know, and they're stepping up and having a crack, and they're probably around about that same age, 3-4 year players, and we just don't play them.
Vince, anything to add?
Well, I was going to ask David, I can't help but wonder whether the issue is mainly in the area of coaching and game plan and strategy, or whether it's the actual list of players that we have and whether they're actually capable of carrying out the game plan that Michael Voss has got in mind. Because it seems to me that there's a disconnect here between what the coaches are wanting and what the players are delivering. And I'm interested to know your thoughts on whether you think Michael Voss has got all the right strategies and game plan, but he just hasn't got the players to carry it out and execute, or whether his whole idea of how these players should play is flawed, because you can only implement a game plan that the players are actually capable of delivering.
Well, I think we mentioned standards last week, and you know what sort of standards we need to have, and it got mentioned by Vossi on the weekend. You know that they're not playing to the standards. What are the standards? What are the internal standards that they expect from those players? And you know, it'd be really nice to know. You know, there's some players put on the screen there that there were a few of them were rejects, but a lot of them, you know, we got them in as well. You know, Mitch McGovern we got in, Cheryl we got in, Elijah Hollands we got in, Nick Haynes. You know, I mean, he was going to be able to help us, you know, in that back line with that tall backman type of role. Blake Acres has been, you know, we picked him up cheap and he's been all right. But Williams we got in. You know, we specifically went after these types of players and got them into the team. And
Jack Martin, who's now moved on.
Yeah, and a lot of, you know, some of those players are on bloody big money too. You know, they were big money recruits that we you know not only spent money on, but you know we lost some draft picks and so on for them too as well. So we had future draft picks for Chera and McGovern and blokes like that you know might be costing us at the moment. So they need to stand up. They need to stand up. They're the blokes who should be, you know, improving and starting to blossom and be our better players. But they're just short of that at the moment.
Look, after 4 losses, you're always going to hear the usual calls for the coach's head on a platter. But what I guess I'm asking is sacking the coach going to produce any more answers to our problems? I mean, is all of a sudden this group of players going to show itself as being capable of winning multiple games, or are they at a point where they just are not good enough? I mean, do we have a lot of players there that are just, you know, picking and choosing when they go and when they don't go, when they deliver and when they don't? Because a lot of them just they might show up in a quick passage of play, but then you don't see them for another half a game.
Yeah, you sack a coach, there's normally a sugar hit and the players get a bit of freedom. They go out and have a real crack.
But we've done that many times in the last 25 years. And
no.
You have that first year sugar hit. If you have a look at all of the coaches that we've had, their first year is generally a big sugar hit compared to the way we were performing the year before. And then all of a sudden it plateaus and then it drops away and then we end up sacking the coach again. And along goes the cycle. Get in the next coach, have another sugar hit, and then again plateau and drop away.
I think we need an external total review of our whole football department, and that
we did that. We did that 4 years ago in 2021.
Wasn't that done by the club though?
It was an external review by three people. One of them was Jeff Walsh. Another one was, I'm trying to remember the bloke's name. I can't remember it. And I think Matthew Pavlich was part of it as well.
Okay, what did they come up with? I can't remember that. But
they came up with the answers that Luke Sayers, they come up with the exact recommendation that Luke Sayers suggested. What Luke Sayers wanted, which was to sack David Teague and all of his assistants. But the football manager survived, Brad Lloyd, and everyone else survived. But it was just the coach and his assistants that ended up getting the chop. Now, clearly, bringing in the next coach hasn't been the answer. And we're back at almost exactly the same spot that we were at 4 years ago.
Yep.
When David Teague's head was on the chopping block. Now, you can just sense it that Michael Voss's head is getting closer and closer to the chopping block as well with every loss.
Well, and that's where, he should be starting to chop the players who are letting him down.
Yeah.
He needs to, or he needs to get a rocket up him and get them playing to the standard that, he wants them playing at for us to be able to win. So, it's a catch-22. But, no, I don't know. I'd go
maybe
for another
we need to review the review.
I'd get different people in. The one good thing I think we have got at the moment is our next general manager, Graham Wright, is a football person, and he's going to have the football side of it more important than the what do you call it, the business side of the club.
Yeah.
I believe he's been in the box this year, been up in the box, so. He's a smart man. He's been around footy clubs for a long, long time. I mean, the only thing that worries me is we haven't got much good out of Collingwood over the last 30, 40 years or whatever.
Yeah. You would have played against Graham Wright back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah. So, yeah.
There's only one good thing to come out of Collingwood. Do you know that? Johnson Street.
To Carlton.
There's only one good thing to come out of Collingwood, Johnson Street. Because it gets you the fuck out of there.
Look, I think Heath Scotland might have been a pretty good recruit back in the day for us.
He's about the only one though.
Yeah,
and been many, but anyway, hopefully, he can have a good look around that football department and hopefully pick up some deficiencies, because there must be some real big deficiencies in some areas, and whether it's coaching, whether it's assistant coaches, development coaches, where we're failing, recruiting, you really got to go through the whole lot. The people who are overseeing it all, as you said, Brad Lloyd's been there a long time now. Greg Williams is a football director. We see
4 years.
We see a bit of diesel when the club's going okay. So we need to make sure we've got the right people in the right spots, and then there should be no excuses. But it really is up to the players, though. They've and it's lucky in a lot of ways. We're playing against two of the youngest teams, I suppose, and up-and-coming teams who are going to make mistakes, and we need to capitalise on them. But we've got West Coast and North Melbourne over the next couple of weeks, so we really need to be able to, have good wins against them. Have good wins, good solid wins, get some confidence. Charlie kicking goals, Harry down there, whatever the case is, we need to get some real confidence among that group again, because we come out of that and we're playing teams, supposedly before the season we say we should be beaten, but we'll be really worried about them. The teams like St Kilda who are on the march at the moment, and a lot of teams are playing a lot better football than we are. The only thing to come out of all this, and even how poorly I think we've been performing and without any real, we just don't seem to have any gusto in our play, our real comradeship out there, and I just think we're in a rut. We're just in a rut at the moment, and it's hard to get out of them. But a couple of wins put you back on the board. You start shooting up the ladder a bit, and all of a sudden things can change, and we'll get some players back. So let's hope they can contribute.
But we seem to talk about the same thing every week. So surely the coaches must see it. Surely. I mean,
they'd be trying. Look, they'd be trying different things at times. It's but I don't know. How do you get in the players' heads? How do you players who are happy in their own skin at the moment, doing what they're doing, getting paid very well, and more interested in other things than football.
So maybe we did pick the wrong coach. Is it Studi? Thoughts on Ross Lyon, Kingsley, Mitchell and Clarkston, all the coaches we approached and rejected. And their teams are doing better than ours. I don't know about Clarkson, but anyway.
I think most of those coaches rejected us in the end. I think Clarkson said no thanks to about $1.2 million a year. Ross Lyon was promised the job, and then they did an about face when a couple of board members said, no, we should be going through a process here, not just guaranteeing someone the job. And so all of a sudden when he was told, sorry, Ross, but you've got to go through an interviewing process and everything, he said, get stuffed. If you don't know what I'm all about by now, well, see you later. I'm not interested. And so then he went to St Kilda. From whatever was left over, even then, the mail I have is that Michael Voss was not the first choice, and that the subcommittee that was responsible for making the recommendation to the board actually highlighted that he had deficiencies when it came to strategy and tactics, and that he was going to have to be surrounded by some people that were better in that area than what he is. And clearly we must have made that appointment on the basis of his playing reputation and the fact that he was a triple premiership captain, and probably on the basis that we were going to sell more memberships as a result of having him, rather than a no-name coach like an Adam Kingsley, for example. Well, I'll tell you one thing, Adam Kingsley's coached GWS to a couple of very impressive seasons already, so and they're well on their way again. So, sometimes the best coaches aren't necessarily star players. We've seen that over the years. I mean, we've seen it in recent years with not only Michael Voss, but James Hird and Nathan Buckley, etc. Nathan Buckley came pretty close to winning one, but in the end, some of the best coaches are actually fairly modest, have fairly modest careers as a player. But the only exception I can think of is Lee Matthews was an absolute champion player, and he became a 4-time premiership coach. He's about the only example I can think of that's a champion player and a champion coach all in the one.
Ronald Dale Barassi wasn't too bad, but anyway.
He was another one, of course, yes. Yeah.
But
a lot of our viewers may not know him.
And to be perfectly honest, the back pockets, Kevin Sheedy and Dennis Hagan and
Mick Moldhouse.
Mick Moldhouse, the back pockets, the nuggety sort of back pockets, with the blokes who sort of really
Bomber Thompson. He was another back pocket.
Bomber Thompson, yeah, exactly. So
coached a couple of
premiership coaches, David Parkin,
another one.
Yeah. So you just keep going through them.
Yeah. But you'd think it's such a big Voss being such a good player. You'd think he'd have a football brain.
Oh, look. You just you know your game, but it's people expectations on others, I suppose, gets more realistic when you're talking to players who can't do what you did, for example. You're capable of doing these magnificent things on a football field, and all of a sudden you're coaching blokes and you're going, geez, why can't they do this? This should be second nature to them. How come they can't get their head around it? It's it can be that type, and it can be a bit for the player who's just a battler, who's just going to go and 100 miles an hour all the time and punch and spoil and not take the big marks. That's his role, and you can have coaches, I suppose, who might be thinking to themselves, well, why isn't he going for the mark? Why isn't he jumping up and doing this instead of doing the other stuff? So it can be a case of the blokes just can't really come to grips with the player at that lower level. That back pocket player is just going to give his all for the club week in, week out, and concentrate on those types and bringing them along and developing them rather than concentrating on the stars who are going to be stars anyway.
Tell me, Rhys, Paddy Cripps, our captain, he worries me. Last 2 weeks he has performed well below his usual self, and he looks banged up to me, and we're only at round 4, and I'm a bit concerned about physically and maybe even mentally how he's coping with everything.
Yeah, there would be a lot, and there's a lot, as Joe said before, there's a lot of speculation, there's a lot of things going around. Obviously he's he'd know every single thing that's going on there. And he's got to wear that as well. He has to off-field, try and help people, help Harry Mackay get back into playing football, and Elijah Holland before him. You've got to be able to get out and help these guys, with their issues, I suppose. How he's doing that and whether that's affecting him. You never know, but that's the job of the captain, though. That's his role, and you need to take it on and get out and produce on Saturdays, because that's the most important thing. But he I don't know. I think last year they put Pendlebury onto Cripps, and he did a pretty good job on him last year. So I think they did the same thing this year, and he just had one of those days. But
pretty sad that a 37-year-old in Scott Pendlebury, who's I don't know how many. He's probably played 500 games nearly.
407 games. Yeah.
That he can still have the impact that he had on Thursday night. He looked like he was 10 years younger. Absolutely. He dominated. And they're good footballers. They're smart footballers. We don't have many smart footballers, And Cripper's he's not the smartest footballer either. He'll get in and win the ball and do all the hard stuff and whatever. But when he's got the ball, he's nowhere near a Pendlebury sort of thing with disposal and just seeing the game and being able to work it all out. We don't have very many smart footballers. We've got a lot of dumb footballers.
Yeah, we're full of dumb footballers, aren't we? And lazy. They're bloody lazy. They just don't run.
I noticed a lot of our boys actually try to kick the ball off the ground on Thursday night. I think McGovern tried to do it once. Sard tried to do it at least once or twice, and they were the only ones that were trying to kick it off the ground, and they were skewing off the boot. It was actually quite dangerous in a sense, not dangerous in a kicking in danger type way. I'm talking about the ball could have gone anywhere and often did. That's what I think. What you mean by lazy too, Joe, isn't it?
But they just don't
prepared to pick up the ball.
They don't run. They don't chase.
Yeah.
They're just I don't know. I don't get it. I don't understand how players can be on their own.
I think our tackling and you look at our tackling compared to the opposition, and we get out tackled, and in the ferocity of tackling as well. I mean, I just think other teams go a lot harder and are a lot more physical than what we are when it comes to the opposition. I mean, geez, you really got to nail your tackles. You really got to nail them. And you don't have to be a big bloke. I often say, some of the best tacklers, Liberatore back in the day was one of the smallest players out there, yet one of the best tacklers. And when you grab hold of them, you got to hang on. You hang on for dear bloody life because
won him a Brownlow medal.
Sorry,
won him a Brownlow medal playing like that too, Tony Liberatore.
Yeah. Well, he had a terrific year, and he was right under the and always involved. Whether he's tackling under, he was a bloke who was giving the ball back to the umpire because he's on the bottom of that pack. So, they don't forget that sort of stuff, the umpires. But
hey, Rhys,
he deserved his Brownlow.
Sorry, Joe, go on.
I was just going to say, some of our viewers are asking, do you think Paddy Cripps is the right captain for this group?
That's what I was about to ask, yeah.
Yeah, it's I think he's been a great leader in some ways, but quite often you'll see us and we'll be in a real tight match, and you'll see Weeder's doing a lot of talking, in the group. You don't see Cripper doing a lot of the, talking to rev players up or whatever they are talking about during the breaks, in tight situations. Quite often it's Weeders and one or two others who are in there doing the talking, and which isn't bad either, but I don't know. And unless you're involved right in there, you can't speculate about things like that. But I think, some of the matches where he's just basically said, "Jump on me back, boys. I'll get you over the line," and he's done it time and time again. So
that's what got him so many Brownlow votes. That's what got him so many Brownlow votes last year. Is he literally put the team on his back, and even in games that we were losing, he was getting 3 votes because he was standing out to the umpires as someone that was really leading from the front
and standing out to everyone. It was an outstanding season, but and so in that fact, he's a great captain. Great captain.
What about vocal? What about in a vocal sense? Is it important that he challenges? Because I'm not sure that he challenges too many of his teammates and gets in their face and directs them and that sort of thing. I noticed here Paul's made a comment about Wiedering. He seems to be more verbal and pulls up some of his teammates and points to where they need to be standing and gets angry if he has to. Is that an area that's important in a captain that you've found over the years?
Oh, look, it's bloody important on the back line. I know that because you've got players that can cost you down there. So
Luke Hodge is one captain in recent years. If we look at a triple premiership captain, I mean, he was outstanding in how he used to direct traffic, almost like a general across the half-back line. But even if he was up the ground and saw a player doing the wrong thing, he'd get in his face.
Yep. Oh, yeah, and I'd like to see Cripper, a bit more
animated,
aggressive in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways, and that means aggressive to the opposition as well. Don't take any shit
of course.
I hate seeing people smiling and carrying on and out on a footy ground. Smile after the game, shake hands, smile after the game. While you're out there, it's war.
It's war.
It is war. That is what the closest you're going to get to war, hopefully. So
especially against Collingwood, you'd think.
Yeah, exactly. So get out there and and for that 100 minutes of footy, you've just got to do everything in your power and have a hate for the opposition. Have a real hate for the opposition.
David, just something. Do you think the players actually know their game plan and their role? We seem to have a few changes every week, and 1 week Ollie's in the back line, then he's in midfield, and then J-Sauce is down back, and then he's forward, and Kemp's the opposition. Do you think that they're actually getting confused?
Oh, I don't think. Some of these players, young Jack hasn't played much in the back line over his lifetime. So he'll a lot of that he'll be getting used to. So Kemp, has played mostly in defence when he's played for us. Lewis Young the same. Probably we played more in defence than forward, and I think what they can do is, it's very easy to get confused out there because now and to be perfectly honest, I don't know what they're talking about when they're running lines and running
patterns.
The running patterns were great. The running patterns were great. Well, hang on a minute, we can't score, and that's where we're really struggling at the moment. We can't score. We have enough of the footy. We get plenty of the footy. We just can't convert into our forward line. We can't take marks in our forward line. We just starting
to resemble Melbourne.
Yeah,
Melbourne are having very similar issues, and in fact, just
only
coincidentally, their score was exactly the same as ours on the weekend: 6 goals, 10.
Yeah, and the real difference is they haven't got bona fide forwards either. They've got some.
That's what I mean.
That Van Ruin,
big blokes. Yeah, he could be all right down the track, but he's not a Charlie Curnow or a Harry Mackay either. So
there's no Coleman medalist in there, is there?
No. So and it's a credit to them that we had won Coleman medals because I think our delivery into our forward line is atrocious.
Yeah, I don't know how. Well, it just shows that we've had no small forward to kick the goals, doesn't it?
Well, we haven't had an Eddie Betts. We need an Eddie Betts type. Where, look, that young fella Willie White did some good things, and had 3 shots at goal and kicked 3 points. So, he's worth probably persisting with. I think Corey Durden played in the. He
did quite well in the VFL. I think he played something like a dozen tackles or something.
Yep. So,
but he also kicked the goal.
We know what we're going to get there, but also he should earn a promotion because the boys in there doing that other job are not doing it. So, Lop Fogarty, these guys, they're not hitting the scoreboard. So, get him in, get them out, whatever the case is.
Yeah. So I think we've talked enough about the game. Let's move on to the votes. So, David?
Yeah, Georgie Hewitt again. I thought his job, he sort of did a bit of a blanket on Nick Dacos in that first half. And it was one of our real tries and looked a bit, looked a bit tired towards the end, I suppose. I've thrown Jack Silvani in. I nearly threw him in the votes last week, and I didn't, and that's why I've thrown him in this week. I just think his defensive work has been really, really good. He's been really solid in defence, and it's something new to him. Reminds me a bit of his old man back there, the way he throws himself about. So, and he gets thrown forward at times too when he needs to, and I thought he did a pretty good job. And Blake Acres, that's the best match I've seen Blake Acres play for the year, and it's good to see him getting a bit more of the ball. It's none of our stars are in there, and that's why we're losing matches. So
And Vince?
Yeah, look, I thought George Hewitt was clearly the best player for Carlton on the night, especially in his first half. I thought Nick Dacos got the better of him in the third quarter especially. He seemed to come out and just show everyone what he was made of. But I still think overall George was our best player for the night. I put Walsh in for 2. I thought he battled on manfully, still has some issues with his disposal. But then again, he's got a lot of mates in that area. But he certainly battled on manfully for the night and never stopped trying. And I threw one in for Ollie Hollins. I could have given it to a few, but I thought he also, really tried hard and kicked a couple of very nice goals. The first goal of the night I thought on the run was a beauty. And he also kicked one from about 50 metres out that just crossed the line before it was touched. And so he kicked a couple of nice goals on the night and also did his job across the half-back line. So he got my 1 vote.
Okay, and before I give you my votes, just a final score from the Fremantle Bulldogs game. The Dockers, 15-7-97. defeated the Bulldogs 12-9-81. So that was Fremantle winning by 16 points. Okay.
Yep.
I gave 3 votes to Hewitt. Thought he was clearly our best player on the ground. I gave Akers 2. I thought he held down his wing quite well, but again, they faded. Giving votes this week was like finding hen's teeth. It was very hard. At one stage, I nearly thought I'd give no one other than Hewitt 3 votes, 2 votes, and 1 vote. And I thought Sam Walsh was back to his best, but I'm just a bit worried that they've got him as an inside mid. He sometimes his disposal is a little bit because he's under pressure. But anyway, there it is. So the leaderboard is George Hewitt has raced out in front. So he's on 22 votes, followed by Tom de Koning, 17 votes, Patrick Cripps, 11, Wiedering, 9, and Kemp, 4, all in one match. Let us move on to... before I do that, I nearly did it again. It is time for David to tell us the
Spirit of
Carlton. And I'll think this week. That's
I thought he was he was a real shining light, especially in that first half. And I think we've got to utilise his running ability a bit more in his foot skills as well. He can hit blokes at pace sort of thing and deliver the ball. He's very well balanced. I just thought he really showed something, and hopefully we can utilise him a lot more because we have to. We need some run for that back line. It was good to see Ollie Hollands get down and kick a couple of goals, but I think this guy can be a real key. If we don't seem to block and protect players all that much as well. I mean, I'd like to see, when a player does give a handball off to Adam Sard as he's running through, block the bloke who's chasing him. Go and put a block across and you give him another yard. Give him
exactly.
He'll utilise that yard. All the other clubs seem to do it. We don't seem to do it. We don't seem to protect our players. We're too busy running off to get to the next position to get a easy possession rather than putting a block on.
Doing the hard work. Anyway, so that brings us to next week. I just want to know, what are we gathering? We're gathered around, but anyway.
Well, we're going to gather 4 points.
Saturday, 12th of April, Adelaide Oval, 1:20 p.m. Not a happy hunting ground for the Carlton Football Club, but we come up against the West Coast Eagles, who are probably just as bad as us, if not worse. So,
didn't we beat Freo over there last year? We beat Freo over there last year, so it wasn't too
We did, but that was our first win in years.
And Port Adelaide.
Yeah. So, David, who's going to win and why?
Well, I've picked us to win. The margin of 3 points. The margin of 3 points mainly because I'm looking at the form and looking that I don't think it's going to be a very high scoring game. Look, hopefully our forwards can come in, Harry can come in, Elijah Hollands can come in, and we can have a dangerous forward line down there and pile some points on. But just on the way we're going at the moment, just on form, I'd say we'll be lucky to get over the line, and 3 points, I'd be happy with that.
Vince?
Gee whiz, haven't we come backwards when we're starting to say we're hoping to get across the line by 3 points against the side that's getting absolutely belted every week. Look,
I think they beat us.
I know.
You've got to look at
yes,
that too.
I know. No, I just said it's just a sad reflection of where we're at.
Yeah.
Some people were tipping us to make top 4 and maybe even play off in a grand final this year. I think they can start packing the bags and booking their September holidays already by the sounds of it. Look, I think we'll come back. I don't think West Coast are anything like a cohesive side. They've also got their issues. I think Harley Reid's all over the place. Probably ends up leaving that club at the end of the year, I would think. Their coach...
Well, there's another one. There's another one with their skipper sitting down with Sam Mitchell and discussing and he comes out of contract. So that's shocking, And those little things in footy clubs, it doesn't matter. It pulls them apart.
Very destructive. Yeah, no doubt. And he's had to come out publicly and apologise. But the damage is done. I mean, he's been caught red-handed having a face-to-face meeting with an opposition coach, and he's the captain of the club. I mean, if Patrick Cripps was doing that with the coach of any other club, we'd be up in arms. So yeah, I don't think West Coast are travelling well at all, and there doesn't seem to be any real leadership there. And I think we'll actually have a pretty comfortable win by the end of it. So I'm tipping Carlton by 29 points. I think even though we're going poorly, I think they're going worse. We're at least competitive in most of our games. We're not getting beaten by big margins, even though we've been very, very disappointing. We're not getting clobbered. So I think we should be able to win against a side like that by around 5 goals.
Yeah, so I've gone the 0-0 draw. I think.
Yeah, but you're just trying to be funny.
I heard the game might be cancelled. The two coaches have met together and thrown both of them through the white towel at each other.
What, they just want to get 2 points each so that they can actually get on the score?
So that they've got some points. Look, I am being silly there. If we can't win this game, we should just forget about year 2025 and just sack all the players and worry about 2026. So I'm reluctantly saying Carlton by 1 point.
Okay. I'll tell you what, if we do happen to win this game and then come along and beat North Melbourne on Friday, and all of a sudden have a couple of wins in a row, what do you think that means for the club? Does that mean that we're all of a sudden, getting our season going and that we can build on something from there? Or are we all delusional and going to start thinking, now we're only 2 and 4 and we could actually still make the finals and all that sort of thing? I mean, are we kidding ourselves? So do you see it as something we can build on and be positive about, or something that's just papering over the cracks?
Well, it depends how you win. And I'd like to see them come out and win with authority. Get out there and bully if you have to. Be the big bully. You know what I mean? You got to get out there and show that, we've turned the track. It's not just winning a game and falling over the line like we're predicting that they could do. They need to get out there and beat these teams with real authority and the good 4-quarter efforts. That's 4-quarter wins. So you get in, you say, rightio, we're going to win the first quarter, get that done, get in together. Scores are 0-0 again. We're going to win the second quarter, win the third quarter, win the fourth quarter. We should be able to win every quarter just on the ability of our people.
Yeah.
And the only thing that will let them down is what's inside the ticker and who's having a red hot dip and who's not. And that's we need to win these games with authority. Otherwise, as you say, we could win them and our season will still be well and truly over.
Maybe they all need to go down to Ed Curno's farm again and have a loving or a barbecue or whatever.
Don't start that again.
Isn't that what they did? And then they won 9 in a row?
Something like that.
Anyway. All right. Okay. So that's brought us to the end. David, once again, thank you very much for your time. We know it's valuable. You give up your Sunday night for us. And I'm sure our viewers are very, very, very grateful for your insight. So, we wish you a great week, and I hope your football team wins this week.
Yes, we have to win this week. So go the Mighty Blues. Oh. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, David. See you next week.
Cheers.
Well, there you have it, Vince. The great man has spoken.
He has.
Hasn't he?
And as usual, he's full of terrific insights and someone who's played the game at the highest level, played in a premiership and won the medal for best on the ground. So, I mean, what better authority can you have than David Rhys-Jones commenting and, I guess, analysing our games on a week-to-week basis? We're very, very lucky.
Hey, Vince, apparently there were some other games, so let's quickly go through them because people are asking for Vince's verdict. So let's get to them.
Okay. Well, the night after we got done, Melbourne got done in a very similar fashion. down there at the Cattery. Geelong 12-13-85, easily accounted for Melbourne in the end. Although the Demons were pretty plucky for 3 quarters, Geelong really pulled away in the last quarter. Melbourne, same score as us, 6-10-46. That's Melbourne's 4th consecutive loss, and they're just as bad as us on the ladder, I think.
Yeah.
Then we had a fantastic game of probably the game
I watched this game. It was great.
So far between the Gold Coast Suns and the Adelaide Crows. The Crows were very, very stiff in the last quarter not to get a free kick to Isaac Rankin. Should have been paid a mark or at least a free kick. I think even the AFL's come out today and acknowledged that. But in the end, it's only what the umpires on the field decide that really matters. 13-13-91 to the Adelaide Crows, 14-6-90. And don't they get on the end of a lot of rotten umpiring calls, the poor old Crows. But anyway, they certainly have shown us all that they are the real deal this year, and probably both of those sides on current form deserve to make the finals.
Oz, thanks very much for your membership. We appreciate all. Thank you. Let's go. Yes. Keep going, Rick.
Keep going. Now, of course, on the Saturday, a very plucky Richmond came back at the Lions there late in the game. I think they were down at least around 40 or 50 points at one stage. They came back to only lose by 28 in the end, 13-12-90 to the Brisbane Lions, 18-10, 118. And unlike last year, where they started 0-4, this year they are 4-0, the reigning premiers, and going along nicely.
Next.
Excuse me. Then, of course, at night, we had a very one-sided game. A lot of people thought North Melbourne would be pretty competitive in this game, but wasn't to be. The Sydney Swans showed their class, 18 goals, 9, 117 to North Melbourne, 8-4-52, and they still have quite a number of issues at that club by the looks of things. Then, of course, today we saw a very one-sided affair over there at NG Stadium in Western Sydney, where the Giants, 2012, 132, smashed the West Coast Eagles by 81 points, 7-9-51. And then, of course, over in Adelaide, now this is a result that went against what I thought. Port Adelaide, what are you doing? Port Adelaide, 10-12-72, were defeated by St Kilda. That's 3 wins in a row to the Saints, 13-11-89, and they're on a roll. Good win by 17 points by St Kilda.
And
I think you'll find that Port got within a goal there at the last quarter, but the Saints pulled away in the end. And of course, the result that you had with Fremantle and the Western Bulldogs was 97-81. Is that right?
That's right. 15-7, 97 to 12-9, 81. So it doesn't make much difference to the ladder. So the top, that 8 hasn't changed. So if you'd like to read it out, Vince.
All right, we've got Hawthorn on top. They've had a bye this week. They're on 4 wins. Brisbane have joined them on 4 wins. Gold Coast are also undefeated on 3 wins and 12 points. They've played 1 less game than the other 2. Then you got Giants on 3 wins and 1 loss. Adelaide the same. Collingwood the same. And St Kilda the same. All in the 8. And just holding on to their spot in the 8 is Geelong on 8 points after 4 games. Joined by Sydney outside the 8 on percentage. Then you've got the Western Bulldogs, who are on now 2 wins after 4 games. So that should be 4 played 4, and they're still on 8
because
points.
I just did. So, and I'll let me read out these. So in 9th, you got the Sydney Swans, 4 played 4, 8 points. 10th, you got Western Bulldogs, played 4, 8 points. 11th, you got Fremantle, played 4, 8 points. Port Adelaide played 4 points. North Melbourne played 4 points. Essendon
the others
played
are all the same as you see on the screen. Essendon and Richmond are the only other teams that have won a game. And then the 3 teams that have lost all 4 games are Carlton, Melbourne, and West Coast Eagles, only separated on percentage.
That's it.
So the blockbuster next week is 16th versus 18th. Carlton versus West Coast Eagles.
Can't wait. So, Vince, what everyone has been waiting for. Vince's verdict. Who have you got in your sights this week, Vince?
Well, I'm sorry to say, but I have the Carlton board in my sights this week. I mean, are these people tone deaf or what? On the day of a Carlton Collingwood game, they see fit to send out an email to all the Carlton members to notify them that they've made 2 additions to the board, including one of the board members that was on there stepping down. Now, the first thing I thought of is that, hang on, we've only had an annual general meeting 5 weeks ago. As if you didn't plan on this guy leaving then. What, you're trying to tell me it's only happened now? No, they do it on purpose so that the person that they replace him with can stay on for the next, so many years. And I just find it amazing that they see fit to issue an email like that. I think there were 24 paragraphs in that email, and 20 of them were basically saying how wonderful they are and how terrific their succession planning is at board level and how the club is in the best of hands. Look, to be honest with you, this so-called skills-based board full of corporate elites that are all mates with each other, that invite each other onto this Carlton board, what have they done to improve our plight on the field in the last 20-odd years? What have they done? How many of them have taken accountability for our doldrums and have stepped down and said, I've done my bit. I'm not going to stay for the full 12 years. I'm prepared to step off the board. Tell me how many of them. There's no accountability. This board is completely disconnected from the fans. I have never seen a board of directors more disconnected and out of touch with the Carlton members and the Carlton fans. And the one director who's there, who's meant to be overlooking the football side of things, is Greg Williams. And as Rhys-Jones said before, we see him a few times when we're going well and when we're winning games and when he's hugging Michael Voss around the boundary line at Marvel Stadium 3 years ago when we were 8-2. But since then, hardly heard a peep. Now, I don't know what they're doing down there, but between the board, the Carlton media department, which is another thing altogether that just makes me shake my head, and the administration down there, I don't think that the left hand knows what the right hand's doing. And for them to send out that email bragging about how wonderful their succession planning is at board level is just not what the Carlton members needed to hear. That was very sneaky to be basically announcing all of that, and that one of the directors was leaving 5 weeks after an annual general meeting. Secondly, what you touched on earlier, the AMPOL thing. What were they trying to achieve by announcing that?
So I sell more petrol.
It just goes to show you where each club is at. Collingwood were doing nothing but promoting how much they love to play Carlton, how much they love to beat Carlton, and how much this rivalry means to them. What did Carlton promote? Yet another sponsor. AMPOL's got your back. What does that tell you? And seriously, that media department, I don't know who's running it, but they need to have a total and utter clean out of people in that department. And seriously, it just baffles me how out of touch this whole club is with its supporter base. And I have no doubt that if our wins and losses ratio gets to the point where we can't make finals, this board will do what it has always done. It will use the coach as a scapegoat for their failures. How many of them have ever come out and taken accountability for their failures as a board? How many? They talk about, we only invite people onto the board that have got certain skills that are going to put this club in the best position. Really? So for all of these so-called skilled people that you brought onto the board over the last 20 years, what success have we seen as a football club? Yeah, financially, I grant you, we're in a much better position financially. How many Carlton members give two hoots about that if we're struggling to win games?
I don't even think our members could name who's on the board. Anyway.
Excuse me. You better take over, Joe.
Jobs for the boys. That's all it is. Vince, mute your microphone.
Sorry.
That's all right. I'll mute it next time. It's just jobs for the boys. What can you say?
Well, again,
were these two even nominated before?
Can I tell you something? The new president, right, is renowned more than anything for becoming an informer to the Australian government or to ASIC for basically providing information on a cartel that he himself was involved in.
So he's a snitch.
Between the banks. So in return for immunity, that's what he insisted on, obviously, that if he was going to lag on everyone else, he wanted immunity. So, that was done in exchange for providing them all the information about how this cartel operated. Now, I was shocked to hear that. And yet, he's the new president. So, good luck with that, everyone. Good luck.
Well, we might have another social event to promote, We can wear green socks or something for let's smoke weed.
Listen, look, the one thing I want to say about this as my last statement on this issue is what everyone has to start realising, because a lot of fans, again, have just not got the point. You are not going to solve our problems by just sacking yet another coach. Now, yes, replacing Michael Voss might be part of the solution, but in itself, it is not the solution. It is not going to change anything in terms of what's really at the root cause of our problems as a football club. The culture of any club starts at the top. The fish rots from the head. It's the board that determines what culture you have throughout your club. It filters down from the top all the way down through the administration, down to the coaches and players. And the way the board escapes accountability is it keeps giving the fans the sugar hit that they're looking for, which is to yet again sack a coach and bring on a new one and sell hope that, this person's going to be our new Messiah. Just like they did with Michael Voss 3.5 years ago. Now, they've done it 9 coaches in a row now. Since David Parkin handed the reins down to Wayne Britton in 2001, or at the end of 2000, heading into the 2001 season, we have had 8 coaches. Wayne Britton, sacked. Replaced by Dennis Pagan, sacked. Replaced by Brett Ratton, sacked. Replaced by Mick Malthouse, sacked. Replaced by John Barker on an interim basis. Did he get the top job? No. See you later, John Barker. Then Brendan Bolton gets appointed, sacked. Then David Teague, sacked. Now Michael Voss. What do you think's going to happen, Joe?
Sacked.
What do you think's going to happen when Carlton can't mathematically make the finals this year?
Out.
And that's what they're going to do again. And that's how they escape accountability, because the Carlton supporters have been too short-sighted to just look at as high as the senior coach as the answer to the problems. It goes further than the senior coach. Why do you think Alistair Clarkson said no to Carlton? Why do you think a lot of other coaches have turned their back on Carlton over the years? Paul Roos is another example. Because they know that the industry circles talk about these things. It's not an attractive club to come to because of the culture.
Yeah.
There's better culture in a bloody tin of outdated yogurt than what's at Carlton at the moment.
Sorry, I just had to... I thought my battery was plugged in, but it wasn't. Sorry about that.
Anyway, look, we have to look further up than just the senior coach's position. We've got to look at everyone from the top there. Anyway.
That's my
verdict for the week. I'd love to know what everyone else thinks. if you agree, disagree, I'd love to know what you think of that.
Well, Danny says it's 100%. I think if the members are voting, Vince, you might get a shot.
Look, it's pretty simple. You have to have people there that are committed to the cause, that are committed to the club in all of the right ways. Not just there to derive contracts for their businesses. They're not just there to help themselves in their own business networking circles. They've got to be there for all the right reasons. And unless you have a board like that, with a smattering of really key football people who know what they're talking about and how to get the club to achieve success. Look at the Brisbane Lions. Guess who one of their board members is? Lee Matthews. Right. What better person could you want on your board than someone like Lee Matthews?
Vince Loccisano.
That's enough from me.
Anyway,
Actually,
you know what time it is?
There's a comment there by Peter V. Look at what happened to Collingwood. They said goodbye to Eddie Maguire in the end. They said goodbye to Nathan Buckley. They put in a new president, new administration. They got a new coach in Craig McRae, who, by the way, Graham Wright had a big say in getting there and choosing him above Michael Voss. And they achieved a flag within 2 years.
Well, let's hope it happens. Anyway, it is now time for Big Vincenzo's bet of the week. And Vince, I've just got one song for you for last week.
I'm a loser. I'm a
loser. Thanks, Joe.
Loss.
Hang on. I
know.
got the Collingwood one right. I got the Geelong one right. The Gold Coast one, I was 2 points off. They only won by a point. I needed them to win by 3. But then, of course, Port Adelaide today, well, they let me down. So
yeah. Anyway,
we got 2 out of 4 again, Joe. We got 2 out of 4.
Well, we can't even sing the Meat Life song. 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Anyway, let's see what you've got for next week.
All right. What I've done here with the gather round, seeing they're all playing in South Australia next week, which I think is a great concept, by the way. I really do like gather round. I went to the first one. I thought it was a fantastic 3 or 4 days away. The only part of it I didn't enjoy was watching Carlton get smashed by the Adelaide Crows on the first night of the round. Anyway, this week what I've decided to do is to look at all of the games being played on ovals outside of Adelaide Oval. So these games are all being played at either Norwood or at the Barossa Valley. And what I've done is I've decided to go for the Victorian-based teams to perform better than what the market is suggesting that they should win or lose by. So we've gone for North Melbourne here to either win or lose by no more than 20 points. Okay?
So hang on. Who are they playing? Let me tell you who they play. Just getting it up.
Playing a pretty good side.
Gold Coast Suns.
Correct. So okay. North Melbourne's playing Gold Coast, but I'm tipping that they'll lose by no more than 20. Okay.
Western Bulldogs are playing Brisbane Lions.
Also against the Brisbane Lions, I'm tipping that they'll get within 11. Richmond
are playing Fremantle.
Margin there, so we can have Richmond losing by up to 37 points, or win, of course. And St Kilda also to win or lose by no more than 19 points.
Okay. So they're all at $1.90. Box it up, $13.03. $10 out.
Come off, I promise you.
Vince, I just hope one day one of them comes off.
Me too.
So sorry. You're looking quite. I didn't change the 30. Yeah, we're down to a $60.
If we get down to $50, we might have to change it up a bit and back something at $2 to win.
Yeah, we might have to. Anyway,
go on.
Anyway, that brings us to the end of the show.
It does.
So I'd like to thank all the people who contributed, our regulars, Rocco, Rat Poison, Alessandro, we got Oz, we got Lone Wolf who donated some money, Grant, Lana, DC. If I haven't mentioned you, I'm sorry. There's way too many to mention today. We've got a big crew.
Hello to Brian McMahon, if you're out there. I believe he was making some comments on the chat line.
So once again, I just want to let me get something up. I just want to get the game next weekend. So it's Carlton, West Coast. Why am I putting this up? It's at Adelaide on the 12th. The Jumper Punch are running a function at the Sporting Globe in Northland. So if you have a look in the comments of today's show, or if you go into the comments of the Jumper Punch show, you will see how you can book tickets. They're free. There's nibbles. You'll be surrounded by other Carlton supporters. So hopefully you can all sit there and, give critical comments or pass on constructive comments. Or if not, make some new friends or put a face to the name. Okay? So, And again, don't forget, you can see us at Blue Sunday on Facebook, and we are brought to you on the Jumper Punch channel at YouTube, so at the Jumper Punch. And don't forget our sponsor of the channel, the Sporting Globe at Northland. So we hope to see everyone there next Saturday I'm sure that you won't get there at 1:20. I'm sure you'll get there earlier.
Most people get there between 12 and 1, I would think.
Yeah, well, I'd get there early, but I think I've got to stress, don't forget to book your tickets, okay? So I think it'll be a good event. Unfortunately,
they've got fantastic food there at the Sporting Globe and terrific bar as well. So you'll have no shortage of really tasty food and the best drinks. And of course, Northland. If you're not sure where Northland is, it's in Murray Road, Preston. So I'm pretty sure most of you would know that.
Just before we sign off, Vince, who were the two clowns that went in with guns? Were they Collingwood supporters or Carlton supporters?
I have no idea.
Or one of each. I can have a shootout.
Tony Mockbell got out of jail the other day might not be a coincidence.
I don't know. Anyway.
Oh, the state of Victoria, they should love it, eh? It's becoming the biggest shithole you've ever seen in your life.
I'm glad you don't know. Anyway. On behalf of the Jumper Punch channel and Blue Sunday and my co-host Vince Loccisano, I hope everyone has a happy and safe week. I hope your football team wins. As you know, Vince, some of the people in the chat are not Carlton supporters. We don't mind. Just don't get a bit personal. I had to block one guy who was making very derogatory comments. I'm happy. Yes, I'm happy to cop anything. So on behalf of myself and Vince, have a good week, good night, and
go Blues.
All right, we'll see you all next Sunday night. And
1